Damas y caballeros, gracias por venir otra noche en este episodio de Esos Buenos Broncos. Yo soy su comentarista, Brandon Perna.
Now that is an impressive intro. Give @Wackham25 a follow on Twitter now, and if you follow him, you may be lucky enough to get all of my videos in Spanish. Welcome to That's Good Broncos. I am Brandon Perna. This is the prediction episode for the Broncos and Raiders, the AFC West showdown, and yes, for the first time in many years, this really will be a showdown. It's the Denver Broncos versus the Oakland Raiders. Chris Berman still has a job. That's Good Broncos. Yes, this week I used my brain to discover some interesting facts. This will be the second game this season that the Denver Broncos will face a quarterback coming off a 500-yard passing performance. First with Matt Ryan, and now with Derek Carr. I also unearthed the real reason the Raiders are playing better. It's because they're always hugging each other. From thugs to hugs, but never Uggs is the Raiders' new motto. Denver, you take away the hugs, you take away their will to win. And as is tradition here, half point for home field advantage for the Raiders, and since the Raiders fans like to dress up like Mortal Kombat rejects, we're calling upon one of my favorite bad movies, New Line Cinema's 1995 version of Mortal Kombat, to give them the combat points. Gary Kubiak versus Jack Del Rio. I'm calling this a tie. Both coaches are coming off of victories after their respective teams had filthy, ugly, undisciplined performances. I mean, the Raiders set the record for most penalties in a game with 23. 23 penalties, and they still won. Remember when the Broncos had 13 against San Diego this season? Add 10 to that, and you get the Raiders. Plus, Jack Del Rio's defense isn't very good outside of its linebacking core, which is strange, since he's supposed to be good at defensive coaching. Coach Kubiak also got another win, even though the Broncos' offense tried to lose the game with every opportunity they had. Fumbles and more fumbles, interceptions that bounced off players' hands, holding penalties, and ineptitude in the red zone. The head coach cannot magically fix these things, but this offense needs to be much more disciplined this week if they want to win a very important game. Wait, no tie here. Wade Phillips took a hit last game, broke a fucking rib, joked about it on Twitter, and is ready to return. I give Denver 0.25 points for Wade. Finish him. Yes. Derek Carr and receivers versus Broncos secondary. Oh man, I love when the matchup is a strength versus a strength. And this week, this is the matchup everyone will have their eye on. Well, eyes for most people. Chris Harris and Talib are ranked as the second and third best cornerbacks in the NFL, but Aqib Talib will not play as he's continuing to deal with lower back spasms, which if you've ever had, feel like Tom Brady's hand is constantly on your lower back, sucking out all of your life force so he can play another fucking season without injury. That's a back spasm. Oh yeah. The good news is Lorenzo Doss played really well as the nickel corner last week, giving up 2 catches for 29 yards and 3 tipped/batted balls. In fact, he finished the game as the highest rated corner for the Broncos. We also saw Bradley Roby dominate, filling in for Talib with his pick 6, solid tackling, and general awesomeness. After I gave him the Big Dick Player Award, he was given the AFC Defensive Player of the Week Award. Which one do you think he actually cares about? Don't answer, that's rhetorical. TJ Ward admitted this week that as a man growing up in the Bay Area, he doesn't like the fucking Raiders. I like when Ward talks, but not the week after he gave up a ton of passing yards and a touchdown whilst in coverage. We know he and Stewart are going to dish out physical punishment, but the Raiders do have a lot of weapons to defend. Amari Cooper gets them the yards, 787 on the season, and Michael Crabtree gets them the touchdowns, 6 on the season, which is second and third best out of all receivers. Make no mistake about it, the Raiders attack with their receivers. Tight ends Clive Walford, Michael Rivera, and Lee Smith have combined for 31 catches and 2 touchdowns. I'm not sure if Oakland will get these guys more involved based on what other teams have done against Denver, but the main targets will be Cooper and Crabtree. That's why I give Denver half-point advantage here. 100% faith in the no-fly zone, 100% Liu Kang.
She has to accept the challenge, or there can be no final combat.
I have nothing further to teach you, Liu Kang.
Broncos front 7 versus Raiders O-line and running backs. There's a crowded backfield in Oakland. Latavius Murray, Jalen Richard, and DeAndre Washington. Oh wait, and a fullback, Jameez Olawale, who ripped one pass for a 60-yard gain against Tampa. Murray has 279 yards on the season with 5 touchdowns. Denver has struggled to be consistent against the run, but I'm more worried about the explosive DeAndre Washington than Latavius Murray. He's averaging 5.1 yards per carry, and I feel like he poses the bigger threat to this front 7. The Raiders are averaging 116.5 yards per game on the ground. Denver now shares the sack lead with the Buffalo Bills, and I don't know if they can pull ahead going against this Oakland offensive line. From left to right, they have Donald Penn, who actually caught a touchdown pass last week, Kalichi Asamele, fuck me, definitely didn't say that right, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and Austin Howard, all easy names to say, all playing very good football right now. The right side does have a weakness, and that's Austin Howard in pass protection. Howard will need help with Von Miller lurking on that side and Derek Wolfe, who currently is second in the NFL with the most QB hits. DeMarcus Ware looked strong in his return last week, and I believe he'll have a bigger impact this week with a higher snap count. Brandon Marshall has been limited again with his hammy, but Zaire Anderson and Corey Nelson filled in admirably. If I'm Denver, I'm using Anderson more in passing situations because he's much better in coverage than Nelson or Davis. Even though I think Oakland has a lot of talent up front, I give Denver 0.25 advantage here because I don't believe Oakland is going to stick to a game plan that utilizes the rushing attack to beat the Denver defense. Combat point.
Brilliant.
Raiders front 7 versus Broncos O-line and running backs. Country boy. Great, just in time. Khalil Mack is coming off his best game of the season with 2 sacks, 2 QB hits, and 7 hurries to go along with the stout performance against the run. Hopefully, Gary Kubiak and Clancy Barone remember what Mack did to Michael Schofield last year and give Donald Stevenson the help he will need in this game. We also need to see Russell Okung play better on the left side and limit some of the holding penalties that are plaguing his game. Oakland is not good against the run. They're 5th worst in the NFL, giving up 125 yards per game and 8 rushing TDs. However, they kept Tampa in check, giving up 86 yards to Tampa's 3rd-string running backs. Their pass rush didn't really take flight until last week either. I'm guessing they simply exploited a Tampa team that isn't very good, and Tampa still almost beat them. Linebacker Perry Riley is having a tremendous season for some reason, and he could be trouble against the run and in pass protection. Devontae Booker and Capri Bibbs will play better than they did last week in their first game without CJ Andersonic, as long as Booker can manage the pain of his shoulder injury. Matt Paradis is still battling a hip injury, and there's no way Denver has the edge here without a dramatic turnaround from everyone in this starting lineup, outside of Matt Paradis. Half point here for the Raiders front 7. Give him the point, Mortal Kombat.
No, sir, no. Don't. Oh, give me a break.
Okay.
Trevor Siemian in receivers versus Oakland secondaries. Bad against the run. Also, shitty at stopping the pass. They've allowed 15 passing touchdowns and are 7th worst in terms of yards allowed with 292 per game. Denver has to exploit the secondary. Trevor Siemian has to play his best game of the season. Maybe the Broncos have success running the ball. Maybe, but it's time to see Trevor Siemian make some plays when nothing's there. Gary Kubiak named Siemian captain this week, but he was also very critical of the young QB's play. I think the coach is sending a message to Trevor that it's time to start leading this team and to play the game rubbers off, going full devil's inch on the Raiders. Siemian should still be smart with the ball, but what I want to see is him extend a few plays like we saw him do early in the season, make a few runs when things break down, and be the fire or spark on offense. Virgil Green and new tight end AJ Derby have to get targets this week. If those guys are making plays, it'll open up passing lanes for Sanders and Thomas, who both were solid last week. Corner DJ Hayden has struggled this season, so I'd throw it his way, whoever he ends up covering. David Amerson is a better corner, and safeties Reggie Nelson and Carl Joseph are decent as well. And there's also that guy back there named Carey. Scary Carey is what they call him. But for whatever reason, this unit has not performed well as a group. The Raiders linebackers are good in coverage, and if they shut down the tight end options, this secondary may have a good day. Denver's offense has underperformed all season, and I can't, in good faith, keep believing they might have an advantage, even against lesser defenses. This is a wash. 0 points. Give it to him, Raiden.
I don't think so.
Special teams versus special teams. Janikowski is perfect like McManus on attempts under 50 yards, but he's 3 of 8 on kicks over 50, which is weird because he and McManus are typically very good with the long ball. Marquette King is a better punter than Riley Dixon, but the real concern here is King pinning the Broncos deep consistently. We saw Jordan Norwood let the ball bounce that he should have fair caught last week. He fumbled one that the Broncos recovered, and this offense has not been good at digging themselves out of that poor field position. Neither team is great on returns, but after some shaky play in the return game last week, I give Oakland a slight 0.25 advantage. Has it begun?
I don't think so.
Broncos have 1 point. And the Raiders have 1.25 points. That's right, my point system says the Raiders will win this game. The Broncos defensively are going to have to play flawless football, and the secondary, without Talib for the second week in a row, has to shut down 2 very good receivers. And that's a lot to ask. Can they do it? Sure, elite receivers have been emaciated by the no-fly zone all year long. Is Oakland different? No, but I have a hard time believing in the Broncos offense. Kubiak is frustrated. There's extra pressure on the offense to perform, and maybe he gets them to run the ball well as they did against the Texans. The points say Raiders, but you know this wouldn't be called That's Good Broncos if I didn't pick the Broncos to win every fucking week. Broncos win this one 16-12 on a game full of field goals and 1 Broncos defensive touchdown.
So you're going to win the tournament?
Yes, I am.
Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Broncos. Subscribe here. You gotta subscribe, and then follow me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter during the games. That's where you can talk to me. It's a lot of fun. Ask the other people doing it. For all your Denver sports news needs, go to bsndenver.com, and for your Broncos blogging needs, go to the Mile High Report, the highest of all the fucking reports.